All right, what is going on, guys? This is another episode of the Bogey Free podcast. I'm Matt Jones, your host today. Unfortunately, Evan couldn't join us this week. He's having some migraine issues, so it's just going to be me. And honestly, it's a pretty easy week, just from the standpoint of no cut. It's another WGC event, which we haven't had in a while. But yeah, so let's just we'll quickly break down last week's tournament, the RBC Canadian, and then we'll talk a little bit about the course and go through some of the plays for the week. So last week was sort of like I don't know. It's one of those things where like Jonathan Vegas hadn't made a cut in God knows how long, and he comes out just firing, shoots under 70 all 4 rounds and gets into a playoff with Charlie Hoffman and ends up winning it. It's just one of those things where there's variance. There's a ton of variance, and that's why you have to pay attention to all the different reasons you should start a guy. You know, Vegas was the defending champion here. He clearly can play the course well, and it just takes 1 week like this where you can sort of bounce right back into form, and then, you know, who knows what the rest of his season will look like now. You know, we're only a few weeks out of the FedEx Cup playoffs, so there's definitely a lot on the line for these guys right now. And you know, he played his tail off, and it was a pretty decent tournament to watch. But sort of enough of that, right? Let's dive into this week's WGC event. It is being played in Ohio at the Firestone Country Club South course. And last week was a par 72, but we are back to a par 70. And this is one of the longer par 70s that you're going to see. Last week, the par 72 played like 7,200 yards up in Canada. And, you know, this week there are 2 fewer par 5s, and it's a longer course. So as we get into the key stats, we'll see sort of how that plays out. These greens are definitely larger than average, but there's some false fronts, some interesting green complexes that can sort of, if you're out of position, even if you hit the green, you can still find yourself in a little bit of trouble. Ton of bunkers on this course. There's 80 plus bunkers between the fairway and the greenside bunkers, and only a couple of water hazards, only 3 water hazards. Yeah, so that about does it for the course. As far as key stats, I mean, in a strong field like this, it's sort of hard to really, I don't know, differentiate with some of these guys up at the top. But most of the last 5 years or so has told us that you need to be able to have some distance, but you definitely need to be able to hit some fairways as well. I think that there's one golfer that won in the past 5 years that has been outside of the top 25 in driving accuracy or driving distance. So there's definitely a premium on gaining strokes off the tee. As usual, you need to hit greens. Like I said, the greens are large, but if you are missing, there's still some difficult chips out there to try to get up and down. So you're definitely looking for guys who are good around the green as well. So again, this is sort of one of those things where it's really going to be a struggle to pick some guys because you know everybody's making the cut. So you're basically going after guys wow. All right, we're off to a great start. You're basically going after guys who you think can win this tournament, right? So let's just dive right in, and we're going to start up at the top with the 10,000 and up guys. We have the typical names. You have Spieth, DJ, McIlroy, Koepka, Fowler, and Hideki are all above 10,000 this week, with Spieth leading the way at 12,000. So Spieth has won the last 2 starts that he's had. between the Open Championship and I believe it was the Travelers a few weeks ago. And honestly, the momentum that he got from winning the way that he did on Sunday at the Open it's sort of hard to ignore. I did just list some, the fact that you need a little bit of distance on this course to compete, but it hasn't affected him his last two starts here. He's been in the top 10 both times. So, I mean, I'm assuming that he's going to be pretty popular based on fan share tags right now. He is second. I'm recording a little bit early in the afternoon on Tuesday, but still, I think that'll hold. I think he'll be sort of top 3, top 4 ownership guy this week. But again, and me and Evan have discussed this sort of at length, it's hard for any one of these guys to really get out of control on ownership because they're so closely priced. And, when you have 6 of the best golfers in the world within $1,800 of each other, ownership is going to be relatively spread out. DJ does have some mixed sentiment on Fanshare right now, and if you're watching the video, you can see the guys over at Fanshare sent me a hat, which is pretty sweet, and thank you to them for that. But this whole range is going to be pretty interesting to see how it shakes out. Everybody besides Hideki, as of this recording, has at least 16 tags above $10,000. Hideki is lagging pretty significantly at only 9 tags, and I mean, he's played well recently. He has a bunch of top 25 finishes in a row now. He hasn't won in a while, obviously, but he's just always around. Like, he doesn't ever, I mean, not ever, but he doesn't typically seem like a guy that will just completely eject. He's a great competitor. He plays well in these stronger field events. So if you're asking me for a GPP play that will be a little under-owned in that range, it's got to be Hideki. That doesn't mean that he's the best play in the range. I really like Rory quite a bit this week. If I had to rank them, I'd probably go Spieth, Rory, Hideki, Ricky. But it's easy. It's easy to mix and match these guys and still fit in a lot of different lower owned plays as you go down, because I mean the pricing sort of falls off a cliff. There's only 75-ish guys in the field this week, and they're all going to make the cut. So you can take a chance on a low guy in the low 6K to mid 6K range, and you're guaranteed 4 rounds. They're gonna be able to have scoring opportunities regardless of how well they're playing. So it's definitely a consideration to sort of mix and match, but I will be focusing most of my GPP ownership on Rory and Hideki, and then Spieth and Fowler will sort of be a little bit more cash plays. Fowler has really great history here. Last 4 years, he's been no worse than 21st. So he's definitely played this course well before. And, I mean, all these guys have. Like, DJ's won here last year, right? Rory won a few years ago at this tournament. Spieth has been 3rd. Brooks has been 6th place. So they've all played this course well. It is one of the more difficult courses on tour. In 3 of the last 5 years, it's been in the top 10 of most difficult courses on the PGA Tour. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. It's not going to be a birdie fest. It's not going to be, minus 21 like last week's winning score was. It's going to probably be more in like the single digits. If they get a little rain, maybe it softens up and gets like 12, 13 under, but I don't really envision seeing it get much lower than that, like into the high teens. But you never know. It seems like these guys can take advantage of any course lately. So who knows? Maybe somebody will just run away with it. But so that pretty much does it above 10K. As we go into the 9K range, there's a bunch of plays that I like down here as well. Obviously, like anybody over 9K is in the top 20 in the world. So yeah, they're all pretty good. I really like Rose quite a bit this week. I think his distance is going to play well here. He's been striking the ball pretty well. He struggled a little bit at the Open, but he's done well this season for himself. He's had a ton of top 25s. I think he's only made, I want to say like 13 or 14 worldwide starts, and I think he has at least 6 or 7 top 25s. So he's definitely somebody to keep an eye out for. You know that I'm going to say Jon Rahm. He's been really, I mean, it's hard to overstate how well he's done this year. He should be the number 2 golfer in the world right now based on the points that he's accrued in the World Golf Ranking, but because of a technicality, he's still, I think he's 6th now or 5th. 6th. So you could make the argument that it's basically between DJ, Spieth, and Rahm for the best season so far this year. And if Rahm turns it on and he could win an event here, or I really like him at the PGA next week, or even if he can win down the stretch and win the FedEx Cup, it's hard to argue that he hasn't been the best golfer in the world this year. So he's definitely someone worth playing. Stenson is back again. He's accurate. We know this. He's a good ball striker. He's not really doing it for me this year, though. I mean, he's been awful on par 4s. He's 163rd on tour in par 4 birdie or better right now, and on a par 70, I think that hurts him a little bit. And I really have no interest in playing him. Day is sort of up and down as well. But Kuchar, Garcia, and Casey, the last 3 guys in this range, are all decent plays. I mean, you could argue probably if you didn't know his history here that Kuchar would be a bad fit, but he's been top 25 in 4 of the last 5 years, and the year that he wasn't, he was 27th. So we're not, that's fine with me. I don't care what the course fit really looks like. It obviously fits his eye well here, and he's performed well every chance that he's gotten at Firestone. So he's definitely somebody that's in consideration. Sergio, sort of, he didn't really close that well, honestly, at the Open, which, besides the Masters win, is not shocking, and given his major history. But he does have the ball striking to do okay here. I think you probably have to choose just one of these guys below 9,500, really, and I would have to lean towards Paul Casey. He's done very well here in the past as well. I think he was 11th at the Open a few weeks ago. I don't think he technically qualifies as a leader on the PGA because he hasn't played enough PGA Tour events, but he would be 4th in greens and regulation and 5th in scrambling if he qualified for the rounds based on his play. So he's definitely somebody I'm looking at as well. That pretty much wraps it up for the 9,000s. And then as we keep going, Adam Scott, again, it just seems like he's always sort of underpriced in these stronger field tournaments. But I guess it's appropriate. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to go crazy on him, but it would not shock me if he, pulled out a top 10 this week and won some people some money. I'm not so sure on Brandon Grace. Fleetwood has sort of been kind of hot lately. He finished 27th at the Open, but he won a Euro event. I I guess about 4 or 5 weeks ago. He was top 10 also a few weeks ago. So he's been playing well. He's accurate off the tee in all his PGA starts this year. He's he's a good ball striker. He's a good young talent. He's up to 15th in the world now. So he's definitely in play. Berger withdrew from this event last year, but he's been playing pretty good golf, and he has a good combination, like we sort of spoke about before. He has a good combination or an okay combination of driving distance and driving accuracy, where he doesn't absolutely spray it like Justin Thomas. The next guy, love Justin Thomas, but I mean, he's 12th in driving distance and all the way down outside the top 150 in accuracy, whereas Berger is 57th and 91st. So he's not going to completely wow you off the tee, but he's not going to put it, onto a different fairway or anything like that. And the both of them score extremely well. They're both top 50 in par 3, par 4, and par 5 birdie or better. So they're definitely a couple of golfers who can take advantage, even if the course is playing a little difficult. They can find ways to make some birdies. And then as we keep going down, you have Alex Noren, who has played pretty well this season. He's put himself into the top 10 in world golf rankings right now. I don't know if people are really going to trust Phil after he missed the cut at the Open. I'm just pulling up his fan share tags now. As of right now, he has 1 fan share tag. So, well, now I'm gonna look like an idiot, because if that's the case, then I think he's a good GPP play. If he's really going to be that under-owned, it looks like people are sort of gravitating towards Leishman a little bit with 11 tags in this range. Even Zach Johnson's being talked about a bit. Berger and Thomas are being talked about quite a bit. Bubba Watson. So you have some guys here who are going to sort of, gain a little bit more ownership than you might think. And then if people aren't talking about Phil, it would not surprise me if he can hit a couple of fairways. It would not surprise me if he was, in contention come Sunday. Then as you keep going, I mentioned Bubba. I'm not crazy about him. He does have pretty good history here, but he's just been sort of all over the place this year, and I still haven't been able to really nail him down at any point this year. I feel like I'm always on him when he misses the cut or is 45th or whatever, and then he'll get a top 10 or top 20, and I'll be off of him that week. So I'm just kind of done playing that guessing game with him. It's too tilting for me. As we keep going down, you have Hoffman, who played great last week. You have Woodland. You have Chappell. You have Xander Schauffele, Thomas Peters, Ross Fisher. Like, that whole range from 7,300 to 7,500 is just stacked. Like, I honestly think that I could probably come up with a lineup that has most of those guys, if not all of those guys in it, that I really like. And honestly, I mean, you can leave, speaking of that, you can leave a lot of salary on the table this week because nobody's going to miss the cut. I'm comfortable. I haven't built any lineups yet, but I can envision a group of golfers that I would like quite a bit that would leave like $1,500 to $2,000 salary on the table, just because all these guys are, not all of them, there's a couple duds that got in because of like random PGA Tour Asia and PGA Tour South America events. But for the most part, these guys are all quality golfers, and any one of them could legitimately compete. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I'm focused in on the 7K range. You have Johnny Vegas coming up down here too at 6,700, who's coming off the win. You have Bryson, who missed the cut at the Open, but He was on a tear before that, and he might be worth maybe a GPP play, depending on his ownership. He's being talked up a little bit. He has, a handful of tags right now. Other than that, in the high 6K range, sort of above 6,500, Harold Varner got a top 25 last week. I could see fading him though, because that was a par 72, and he's performed pretty well. He performed pretty well on the par fives this past week, and there's only 2 of them this week, so he might be a fade for me, despite the good recent result. And outside of that, I mean, if you want to throw in Hadwin, if you want to throw in Wes Bryan, if you want to throw in Hudson Swafford, I'm not mad at any of that. I still can't get back on the Knox train. I don't entirely understand what's happened with him. But he's dropped from 18th to 50th in the World Golf Rankings, and he's missed a bunch of cuts in a row. He's only made 8 of his 18 cuts this year. So yeah, I can't even do it. I was going to try to talk myself into it, but I honestly can't figure it out how I could possibly click on his name with the talent in the rest of this player pool this week. After that, it gets real dead real quick. I have no interest in Pat Perez. Yeah, I mean, that pretty much does it. I mean, like I said, main takeaways, you can leave some salary on the table this week. You can definitely fade some of these top salary guys, the above 10K. I'll be making a few lineups that has nobody in the 10K and up range, just because if a couple things break the right way and those guys' ownership is high enough, it could actually pay off if they're only, in the 25 to 40 range, and you get a couple guys to pop in the top 10. That's the way to go in these no-cut events. So play of the week for sure is Rahm. I think that he'll be top 10 this week, and I wouldn't be shocked if he won the PGA next week. I'll throw in a little bit of Hideki, and outside of that, it's all those value plays that we just talked about between sort of the 8,500 to 6,500 range, where there's just a ton of talented guys that are definitely decent plays. So yeah, I mean, I guess that'll do it. We're definitely missing our friend Evan today. Just if you were listening to this, I'm also going to be on the Fire DFS pod tonight with Roger Casey, who we had on a few weeks ago, and Jason Wedge, who will be actually coming on the pod in a few weeks here. And other than that, you can check out the blurbs on the DK Live app. You can go over to the DraftKings playbook and look for Reading the Grain. That's the long article that I do each week for PGA. And like Evan says, if we are not winning all the money this week, we hope you are. So good luck and see you later.